Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and in today's episode we're starting our brand new DIY build. So let's go to the shops, see what we can do. Stay tuned. So, the plan today is to get the materials I need for my new Jurgs Cup build. And yes, I know I'm still working on last year's one, but we won't go there. So, the plan last year was to build with whatever you had lying around your workshop. This year's plan is to build a guitar using bits from the local DIY shop, big box store, whatever. So, around the world, I know in America and Australia, you can get some really nice timbers from the big box stores. Not so much in the UK. Unfortunately, in the UK, you get about 98% pine and about 2% oak. Now, that doesn't excite me. My last guitar was a pine guitar, my current neck is oak. I'd like to go something a bit different. Now, I don't know what I'm going to build. I've got some ideas, but we are literally just going to head to Wix, have a mooch round, see if anything grabs me, and we'll go from there. So yeah, that's what we're going with. Sand. All the people right now looking at the screen going, Curtis, what the f*** are you doing, man? Seriously, just build a f***ing normal guitar for a change. You know me. If you've been watching this long, you know me. This is what I do. So, you know. So, yeah, I've been a bit inspired. I've been watching a few YouTube videos. Well, I watch a lot of YouTube. But about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a gentleman who made the concrete guitar. And I thought that was really cool. It was very kind of in the ilk of, you know, Belzar and Nick Zametti and John Malecki. I like the kind of, you know, making unusual moulded guitars, and I've wanted to do some moulds for a while, so I figured a sand guitar's ideal. I also saw a video recently of a gentleman who made some tables out of layered sand, literally sand and resin coloured up. And I thought that was brilliant, and I thought, you know what, that would make a really interesting guitar. So we're making a sand guitar. The Sandcaster, if you will. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, in this episode, make a mould of a Strat style guitar. And thankfully, if you cast your minds back to the Impossible build, I have the remnants of a Strat guitar. So yeah, that was literally just used. It was cannibalized for the parts, even though I didn't use most of them. But it was literally just a template for the Impossible build. So I've got a perfectly good neck and a body sat here. So the first plan is to get this thing cleaned up. There are some scratches, there are some dings, there's a few bits of nastiness on this thing, so I need to kind of tidy it up and clean it up. I'll have to fill some of the damage. There's a few scratches and bits. I also need to work out if I need to modify the internal spaces. Thankfully, with it being cheap Chinese made, they route out massive cavities for all of the pickups, and then they just shoehorn in whatever they need to, whatever pick guard, whatever layout. So it's already got holes for 3 humbuckers. But the problem I have is the also cheap Chinese made scratch plate is crap. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but if I line this up roughly with the position where the bridge should be and roughly where the neck should be, there is massive gaps along here. The parts of the wood stick out where the humbucker should be there. It doesn't line up very well on the edge here. It's just a bit shit. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this awful attempt at shielding this thing, plan out the actual spaces for what I need, route out the bits that I don't need, and any bits that I do need I'm going to fill in with some modelling clay, just so I've got a decent template to work from. So let's get started. Right, so there you have it. The central posts were slightly getting in the way from the pick guard, but to be honest, I'm probably going to end up using this as a test rig guitar anyway, so it makes sense to get rid of those posts, and I couldn't be asked to get the router out. It's a bit noisy, it's a bit dusty. Oh god, I'm turning into Ben Crow. Ah, no, not my hair, not my hair, no, no, no! But yeah, so I just fancied using hand tools for that one, so I just cut that out. Gave it all good sand up, 180 grit. As you see, I packed out the neck pocket with some tape because that was loose as hell. And no, I'm not going to make any council estate jokes, don't worry. Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to watch Snuggle Go! But yeah, it was terrible. So I've literally just packed it out with tape enough that the neck is now snug, and then just gobbed on some filler. It's not a pretty job. The tube basically ran out, so I couldn't use it, so I just cut it open, got what I needed out there, and just fingered it.
Calm down, George. We brought her up right. She's only gonna get fingered, you know it.
Sorry, council estate again, my bad. But yeah, so that's it really. I've got to build up a couple of sections with some modeller's clay when I get a second, but I want to let this fully cure up in the meantime, so then I can just sand that back, fill in the sections, and we're sorted. So this can go to dry for now, and let me show you how I made the mould.
Took a little bit longer than I expected, but now that's all sanded down, all the little dings, scratches, we've gotten rid of those, everything's all tidied up. I've also put in some modeller's clay just around this edge because of how badly that scratch plate's cut. That gives me a little bit more meat on this edge just in case it doesn't fit right. So that's all done. It's all been cleaned out. I've put some masking tape across where the tremolo used to be because we're just going to hardtail this one. I don't want to be routing out sand, that's just going to be a pain in the arse. And yeah, where it was cheaply made, the routes went through into the back cavity, so I've just taped that up so it doesn't cause any issues. And now we're ready to sort this one out. So we got the mould gun, this is now done. All I've got to do is pour the silicone. Now I'm not actually going to be pouring any silicone. Let me explain. So, when God's dog was a lad, I started out in the props making world, and when you had to do moulds, the pourable silicons cost an absolute fortune. You could pretty much only get them from America. You had smooth cast and I think smooth on, smooth cast, something like that. And it was extortionate. It was hundreds of pounds for a 5 litre kit, and that was never attainable for someone on a low budget like myself. So I always kind of stayed away from the silicone mould things. I would always make moulds out of fiberglass or something a bit sturdier, but it's nice to have a flexible mould. Now I decided in this one I'm going to stick to my DIY roots, and I'm going to use leftover silicone sealant. Now this might not work and if you were to buy enough silicone to make this mould, it probably would be more expensive than the pourable silicons you can get now. There are companies like MB Fiberglass or Easy Composites. There are a few companies in the UK that do sell the silicone kits, and you can get them now for about £20 a litre, so it is a lot more attainable. But I wanted to see what I could do. I've got tons of tubes of silicone from my construction days, and I figured give it a go. Most people have got a few tubes of silicone lying around, and it does have a shelf life, so yeah, it's worth a try. If it fails, then I will get a proper kit, but I really want to try a real budget DIY way of doing it. Now, the tutorials I've found online are for model makers and, you know, jewelry makers, small little things, and they recommend basically dish soap, water and silicone. Now the reason for that is most people don't know that silicone actually cures with water. People think it cures in the air. It's actually moisture content that helps it cure, so that helps kind of make a little puck that you can do a little mold with. I don't see why this shouldn't work. I can't be 100% sure, but I'm going to give this a go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the mould. I am going to mould release both that and this, and I will be using Vaseline or petroleum jelly. I was going to use baby oil, but apparently you can't buy it in bulk these days, especially not from Costco.
Damn!
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So this is what people recommend to use for silicone molds. So I'm going to slather this quite liberally over the mold and this, and then we're just gonna, I think I've got about 15 tubes of silicone here. We're just gonna whack it out and see what's what. The plan is that I'm not going to cast the back area because I don't need it, because I need the details on the front more. So this is going to get completely covered. At the back, I'm just going to put a small bead around the edge and then glue this down into the mold, and I'm going to include the belly carve as well, so that way I can get as complete a mold as possible. And just got to hope I've got enough tubes of silicone. Let's see what happens. Goth Rider Creations, purveyors and creators of fuck ugly cakes since 2024. Please think of us for your next wedding, bar mitzvah, or anyone else that you fucking hate. That sucked. It was fine going around the edges. It was, you know, absolutely fine. But when they say that Vaseline doesn't stick to silicone, they're not wrong. That was just dancing all over the fucking place. Yeah, that was absolute nightmare. I'm hoping that as it settles overnight with the weight of the silicone, it should do all right. I was hoping to have a flat base, but you saw as soon as I start scraping it, it was just peeling all the silicone back up. So what I might do is, once this has dried for a couple of days, I might go back in, add another border a bit thicker, and then try and kind of fill it up a bit more. I've got about 5 more tubes of silicone, so that didn't actually take nearly as much as I thought it was going to. So I'm going to let this dry for a few days. I think the rough texture will actually help when I try and rebuild it. And then, yeah, I'm going to try and get it a bit thicker, because it's only about 5mm on top, and I want at least 10mm to be able to have a solid base. So I've got dinner on the table. I've got a probably pissed off missus, and yeah, I'm gonna go in, wash 5 tons of crap off my hands, eat a lukewarm dinner, and appease a lovely wife who I love dearly. Sorry. Alright, see you in a few days. So here we are. As you saw, it was literally one evening after work. I just added an extra lip to the outside, give it another 20mm of height, and then I just grabbed the last of the tubes of silicone I had, splooged it all over, and then just got a ruler and just kind of scraped it as flat as I could. So it's been a week and a half since I've done that, and it feels pretty solid. It's pretty weighty, but I'm hoping that means it's solid all the way through. So all we've got to do now is just try and cut it off of the base and see if I can peel it gently away from the guitar. Yeah, this is Judgment Day. Let's see what happens. Right, so this is the mould, and well, it failed. There's no other real way of putting it. Yeah, the pouring that I did on the silicone left way too many voids. Silicone in sections never actually cured, which I don't understand considering the vast majority of it did. I had some air pockets, there's whole holes in the side of it. It didn't really work. Now, I have two options. Either I buy some pourable silicone, make a new mould and try again, or I try and patch this thing up. Now, that is technically possible using more silicone. You just kind of, well, yeah, some of this stuff really failed. You just kind of patch it up as needs be. Use some more silicone and a scraper and just kind of fill in the voids and the gaps. I can rebuild sections here, put in more silicone, go that way. It is possible to rescue this. It's not the ideal way of doing it, I'll grant you that, but it is technically feasible. So I'm going to leave this a few days to fully cure, then I can cut away the sections that are completely fucked, and then I can see what I have to work with. I'll probably put in an order for some pourable silicone anyway, just on the off chance. But if I could save this thing, I would like to. I had this grandiose, retarded idea that I'd be able to make this mould so I could use it multiple times. Now, obviously, that's not going to work. But if I can make this a one-use mould, I only need to pack it with sand and resin. It's not as though it's going to be a perfectly immaculate finish. And any of the voids that are in here won't be negative, they'll be positive. So there'll be raised parts of the sand. And you've got to sand it down afterwards anyway. So it's going to make more work, but you know me, making work for myself is what I do. So I can lose this whole section where the arm carve, the belly carve is meant to be, and then I can just sand that in myself after the fact. The neck pocket section has come out okay. It's not amazing, but it's enough that I can work with, and then I can just reroute the neck pocket after the fact. I can cut out some sections of this center bit and kind of almost use silicone and just kind of mold my own way. I could also theoretically just use the modeling clay that I was using to fill in the cavity areas. I could literally just use sections of that, pack that in there, and then once the resin's dry, just pull that out. So I'm kind of leaning towards rescuing this, amazingly. It's an interesting thought. As we say, it's all about budget, so I'm going to give that a go. So yeah, there you have it. Goth Rider Creations top tip: don't use household silicone sealant or cork to make your molds. It doesn't work. It doesn't stick together very well. It's a bit crap. But I'm going to do my best to see if I can salvage this thing. It's worth a shot. You know, I screw these things up so you guys don't have to. I should put that on a t-shirt. So yeah, in the next episode I'm going to get this thing patched up, ready to be used. I'm actually going to start colouring the sand as well, because obviously I've just bought bog standard kiddies play sand, so that needs to be tinted in various colours to get the scheme that I want. Not going to tell you guys that just yet. You'll have to keep watching. God, that was cheesy. So yeah, there we go. Another f***ed up contraption. Thank you very much. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And to the lovely people who accidentally unsubscribed thinking they were subscribing again, thank you. It's very sweet, but just have a look in the bottom corner. If it's showing a bell of any colour, you're subscribed. If it says the word subscribe, then you're not subscribed. Please do so, you know. Yeah, drop us a comment as well, let me know what you think of this monstrosity, and next time we'll try and do something a little bit better. Thanks everyone, take care.